So it looks like there was a problem with the previous video, so we're going to just redo this video kind of quickly. And so the big thing to remember with these is as soon as we see this limit as h approaches 0, right, that's our big hint, right? And we see this whole x plus h, basically this is that limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. And this is the definition of the derivative. So this is the derivative, essentially of f of x. So we find our f of x here is cosine of 3x. And so we just want to know what is the derivative of cosine of 3x. Well, this is chain rule, right? The derivative of cosine is negative sine. And then of 3x, right, of that box, times the derivative of 3x is 3. So we're going to end up with negative 3 sine of 3x. And as you get better at these, you may even just be able to jump straight to that step. I'm okay with you just jumping straight to that step if you can kind of think of that, visualize it in your head. Okay, next one, find the equation of the tangent line. All right, so anytime we have equation of our tangent line, we're always going to set up with x1, y1, and m. x1 here is going to be pi over 3. To get y1, we're going to do f of pi over 3. So that's 3 times pi over 3 times cosine of pi over 3. And this is something we absolutely need to have memorized, is our chart, our unit circle. So the 3's are going to cancel out here. We're going to get pi times, now cosine of pi over 3 is just 1/2. So our y1 is pi over 2. And we can just leave it like that. There's nothing else that we can really do to simplify there. And then to get our m, right, first we need to take f prime of x. And this is going to be product rule here. Right, whenever you have two x's next to each other without an adding, subtracting, division symbol, it's product rule. So derivative of the first is 3, leave cosine of x alone. Then plus, now we're going to leave 3x alone, and the derivative of cosine of x is negative sine of x. Now you can simplify this a little bit more, but I never do whenever I'm doing like plugging in, right? I just plug in as soon as I can. So this is 3. We already said that cosine of pi over 3 was 1/2. Then plus 3 times pi over 3. Sine of pi over 3 is going to be square root of 3 over 2, but there's a negative symbol there, so it's the negative square root of 3 over 2. So those are going to cancel out, and we end up with 3/2. I'm going to move the negative sign to the front, so minus pi squared of 3 over 2. And we can just write that all as 1. So we can just write 3 minus pi squared of 3 over 2 as our m. So this gives us just our equation. Right now we just plug into our point slope form. Okay, next one, find the equation again. This time instead of tangent line, it's normal line. So it's a good idea to either do one of two things. You can write m perpendicular, or I've seen a lot of students still mess up. So one thing, if you're still messing up, is for normal line, just put both of them. And that'll kind of help you to realize, hey, I do have to do that. So when x is equal to negative 2. So for y1, we're going to just plug in f of negative 2. Cube root of 3 times 2 minus 2. And that's the cube root of 4. Now, I forgot. I messed up there. It's negative 2. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Minus 2 is the cube root of negative 8. Okay, and cube root of negative 8 is just going to go to negative 2. Right? The cube root of 8 is 2. That's something I think I told you guys in one video to make sure we kind of memorize up to 5 at least. Right? So 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27, and 4 cubed 64, 5 cubed 125. So if we cube root all of this side, we go back to those. Now with negatives and cube roots, the negative symbol just remains. So our y1 is also negative 2. Now for our m, we're going to take the derivative. Before we can take the derivative, though, we cannot do the 1 over 2 square root rule because it's not a square root, it's a cube root. So before we do that, we're going to actually rewrite this as 3x minus 2 to the 1/3 power. And this will have a chain in it, right? We have a box here. It's not x to the 1/3, it's something else to the 1/3. So this gives us 1/3 times 3x minus 2 to the negative 2/3 power times 3. Our 3's will cancel out, and so we end up with 1 over 3x minus 2 to the 2/3 power. We can plug in here, but I'm not very good with fractional exponents in my head. I always like to, if I know I'm going to have to plug in, I like to put it back to our radical form. So it's going to be a cube root because that's on the bottom of our fraction. And 3x minus 2 needs to stay in parentheses. That's being squared, right? The top of our fraction is what goes inside. So that's f prime of x. To get f prime of negative 2, we just plug in negative 2. So 1 over the cube root of, now 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, minus 2 is negative 8 again. So this is positive 1 over negative 2, right? Oh wait, I messed that up. I forgot about the squared, huh? It's negative 8 squared. So this becomes 1 over the cube root of 64. And that's also on our list. The cube root of 64 is 1/4. So that's our slope. Our slope is 1/4, but our perpendicular, our normal line slope, then would flip it to 4 and flip the sign. So negative 4. So we get y plus 2 equals negative 4 times x plus 2. That's our normal line. Okay, and then finally, problem 4. At what point on the function is the normal line perpendicular to the line defined by the equation y equals 1/4? Now, this is a little bit tricky. We have normal line and perpendicular. So they're saying when is the perpendicular slope also perpendicular? This is actually a double negative. So they're kind of just canceling out. And essentially what's happening is, here's our slope, right? So our slope is 1/4. But then they say, okay, we want it to be perpendicular. So that's going to take it to negative 4. But then we want the normal line, right, which is again the second time saying it's perpendicular. So it goes back to 1/4. So essentially that double negative just is saying when does it have the same slope. It's a little bit weird, but when does it have the same slope? So we want to know when is the slope of 1/4, the same as the slope of that line. So how do we do the slope of f of x? We take f prime of x, right? The derivative is our slope. And here it is a square root, so we can do the square root shortcut. 1 over 2 square root of 3x minus 2 times chain rule times 3. So that gives us 3 over 2 square root of 3x minus 2. And we want to know when is that slope equal to 1/4. So we can set that equal to 1/4. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. You can cross multiply however you guys want to do it. I'm going to just cross multiply here. Whenever I have two fractions equaling, if I don't have anything else, a lot of times I'll just cross multiply. So that gives us 12 equals 2 square root of 3x minus 2. We also could have multiplied both sides by 2 square root of 3x minus 2 and then by 4. Divide by 2, we get 6 equals the square root of 3x minus 2. We're trying to isolate the square root. And then once you get a square root isolated, you can always square both sides. So when you square both sides, the square root will cancel out. That gives us 36 equals 3x minus 2. Add the 2 over it, 38 equals 3x minus 2. Divide by 3, 38 over 3 equals x. Now, let's go back and just double check what the question was asking. Was it asking for the tangent line or the x value or the point? When it says the point, that's the x comma y. So what we need to do is we need to plug in 38 over 3 back into the original. So f of 38 over 3 will equal the square root of 3 times 38 over 3 minus 2. 3's cancel, square root of 36, which is 6. Now, we're going to use 6, not plus or minus 6, because we're solving for the f. Remember what I kind of said earlier is if the function side, if you're solving for the f of, you don't do plus or minus. But if you're solving for x, you do plus or minus. And that just has to do with functions, right? A function right? Like an f of x can't have plus or minus. So it's going to tell you before the square root, was it the positive side or is it the negative side? In this case, it's the positive side, so we use 6, right? When we're solving for x and we do a square root, that's when we do need the plus or minus. Anyways, this was the f of 38 over 3. That's the y value of our point. So that means our point is 38 over 3, comma 6. Okay, so those 4 questions should really help you study for the quiz. And I will see you guys in class tomorrow. Good luck studying.